What is up, everybody? Hey guys, it's Tyler with Hooksets are free. Hope you're having a great day, night, or whenever it is that you're watching this video. Assuming you're watching on the replay, I am live right now. It's about 9:30 p.m. here, Thursday night, the 16th of November. So a little bit late, but I got caught up watching the Thursday night football game, Chiefs versus Chargers, which was a pretty wild game actually, and Chiefs just took it down in overtime. So thought I would hop on here. I did tell you guys an hour ago or so that I would be going live tonight. I do have my package from Discount Tackle for the month of December that I'm going to open with you guys here in a couple of minutes. I've got a glass of bourbon and just going to give people a couple minutes to hop in here before I go ahead and open the package, show you guys what I just recently picked up. So what's up, Matt? Hey, Daniel, how you guys doing tonight? Grayson in the house. Looks like people are getting notifications, perhaps, which is cool. 4 people in here in just 1 minute, which is pretty cool. So hope you guys have been having a good week so far. It's crazy to think Christmas is coming up just next week. So yeah, fishing here has slowed down pretty significantly in Colorado, although we're not frozen over yet. So I did have the opportunity last week to go out and do some trout fishing twice, a little combination of fly fishing and throwing a spinning rod. Got into probably uh, 3 or 4 fish the first time, and then more like 15 fish the second time. So pretty sweet. Always good to catch some fish, but yeah, the weather has been cooling off just a little bit. I might have an opportunity to go out tomorrow and do a little bit of fishing, but the bass fishing has just been so incredibly slow for like the last 4 to 6 weeks, if we're being honest. So I am pretty much just trying to target trout at this point. So Matt says, got an order of cranks coming in from Ichiban. Can't wait. Got some heat. He says, I just check around 11:30 every Thursday and Friday. Well, I appreciate that, man. Good to see you guys in here. I love to fish for bass. Remind me one more time what your name is, man. You say, what up, bro? About to watch while I make some scrambled eggs. Sweet. Yeah, I was just about to make some nachos myself. And, the football game ended really quickly during overtime. So I decided, well, I actually do still have time to hop on here, hang out with you guys for a little while, and do the unboxing tonight as opposed to tomorrow. So right on. I will make those nachos when I hop off here later tonight. Derek. Okay, man. Good to know. Well, thank you for introducing yourself. And yeah, pleasure to meet you. You probably know, but my name is Tyler, although the channel name is Hooksets are free. So yeah, I hope you guys are having a great night. That was a pretty wild game, dude, especially the last 5 minutes of regulation and then overtime. I mean, the Chiefs not only have Patrick Mahomes working his magic, but what weapons he has when it comes to Travis Kelsey at tight end and Tyreek Hill at wide receiver. Just absolutely insane. So yeah, they're going to be a force to reckon with for a long time, and we've known that. But given that the Broncos are in the AFC West, my Broncos, I should say, I kind of have to watch when it's a division rival matchup like that, and there's playoff intentions, playoff uh, stuff at stake. If the Chargers had won, that opens the door for the Broncos to still potentially win the division, which would be absolutely insane and probably unlikely. However, with the Chargers losing like that, that opens the door for the wild card spot for the Broncos just that much more. So you never know. That said, I do think the Chargers and Justin Herbert are definitely a better team than the Broncos, but you never know, man. That's the cool thing about the NFL. So I am hopeful. Broncos are 7-6. Now the Chargers are 8-6, and we could tie him up this week. So Derek says Javonte Williams going to be a monster for your Broncos, homie. He's the future at running back for them. I don't doubt that at all. That said, Melvin Gordon has still had a pretty great year, and I've always been a fan of him, despite some of his off the field struggles. And part of that is just me having him on my fantasy roster for a number of years until this past year. So Javonte Williams is a beast, though. You're absolutely right about that. Grayson says, bro, I got to go fishing for the first time in 2 months on Saturday. And caught a something, 2, and a solid 4 1/4. Dude, 4 1/4 is sweet for this time of year. So right on. Good for you, man. I am definitely jealous. It was fish about that size that I was catching when I was catching bass last, but it hasn't been a while. So a high 2. Okay. Cool, guys. Well, I'm going to open this package for you since we are 6 minutes in. There's 5 people in here. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button real quick. I don't know that anybody else is going to get the notification at this point, but we shall see. Matt says, also got some old school man's crankbaits coming in from Epic Eric's, painted by TK and a front runner. Sweet, dude. That sounds awesome. Grayson was catching them on the rattle trap. My man. All right. So there are not a lot of baits in this package, but there are some good ones. And first one I'm going to start with is one that I've showed you guys before, but is one that I think is a pretty decent crankbait, especially for the money. And this guy right here is the 13 Fishing Flatty Daddy. So this is a flat-sided crankbait made by 13, and it's pretty decently made. I will say that. In terms of specs, this thing is 2.5 inches long, weighs a half an ounce. Okay, so solid casting distance is what you're going to get from this. Really like that they label right there on the bill that this thing is a 3 to 6 foot diver. So solid running depth out of a flat-sided crankbait. Some run a little bit shallower than that, but I would say this is about pretty typical. And I love that they label that diving depth. It comes with pretty solid stock hardware on it, and then they make all of their hard baits in some pretty cool color patterns, to be honest with you. So this is one of my favorite colors that they make, called Day Old Guac. So definitely a crawfish pattern that that is mostly like a pale brownish green, like an olive green that fades to an orange belly. This does have some translucence to it, as you can see in the belly there, and it's got this frosted bill here. So if you look at it, it's got a pretty medium or even thin body to it, which I'm a fan of when we're talking about flat-sided baits. I want them to be pretty flat. So if you listen, it's got a pretty subdued rattle system, which I'm also a fan of when it comes to flat-sided crankbaits. So that is all good. Guys, thanks for hitting that thumbs up button for me. Appreciate you. Matt says, great color. Love the orange belly. Yeah, this really is a great color. It's one of my favorites that 13 makes. You guys know that I've got most of the color patterns in the Jabberjaw. And yeah, it's one that I talk about. So I like it for sure. So I've had a couple of the Flatty Daddies in different, more standard color patterns, like shad patterns, and didn't have one in a craw type of color pattern. So decided to pick this up. It's like $6 or less, and honestly, it is a great deal. So let me tell you what I picked it up for, because I'm pretty sure everything that I got in this box was discounted. And if you guys are not familiar with Discount Tackle, you need to get on it. I will drop a link right now in the chat to my affiliate link with them. But I did pick this guy up for $5.59. So absolutely wicked good deal. When you're talking about a flat-sided crankbait with hardware on it that does not need to be changed out. Of course you can, especially at that price tag, and it's still worth it. So I am dropping in the chat right now my affiliate link to Discount Tackle. If you guys are interested in checking out any of the stuff that I talk about in tonight's video or just anytime else, bookmark or save that link and use it in the future when making a purchase from Discount Tackle, and I will get a little bit of a kickback, and more than that, Discount Tackle will just know that I sent you their way, and that does good things for my relationship with them. So Riley Belden in the house. What's up? Hope everyone's been safe. Tyler, hope the family's doing good and your daughter's recovering well. She has fully recovered, is doing amazing. So thank you so much for that. No problem that you've been absent from the streams, but COVID has been kicking your butt. I am so sorry to hear that. Dang, that is too bad. So sorry. Matt, this box that I just showed, it is this one right here. It's the Flambeau 3003. Okay. I'm not sure if they make these exclusively for Cabela's and Bass Pro, but this is a really cool box here that if I show you in comparison to like a Flambeau 3600 size box, it is just a little bit thinner and it's definitely smaller. So if you were to compare it to like a 3700 size box, you could probably almost fit 3 across, and it's thinner. So I've talked about this box before, and it is one of my favorites, especially for smaller crankbaits, a lot of different hard baits actually, as well as specific soft plastics that are smaller in nature. So what you'll see is that like I've got one. No, this is a different box. My bad. Here's one. So this is Ned rig baits. Okay. Each of these dividers is like exactly 3 inches. So here I've got the Yum Ned dingers. Here I've got some cut down 6-ounce Ned fries, and then the Guggen baits rattling Ned. And there's a lot of different ways that I use these small boxes, but they're super handy for smaller sized baits. You see here I've got it divided in half for these 4 to 4.5 inch hyperlastic dart spins. So really convenient way to store baits that are anywhere from 3 to say 4.5 inches in size. You know, this is a box just dedicated to Rage Menace grubs. As you can see, they're a little bit small for these sections because this is like 4.5 inches and the bait is 4 inches. But that has been a way that I've stored baits for a while now, and I'm a big fan of it, whether it's small hard baits or soft plastic baits. And yeah, pretty sweet, man. Definitely look into it. I can get you know, these cost like $10, maybe even $8 for a 4-pack. So really good deal. And yeah, highly recommend it. It's got that Z-Rust with those dividers and everything. So yeah, man. Daniel, I'm a big fan of Flambeau too. I like Flambeau and Plano. Honestly, most of these are Plano boxes with the latches, And then I use Flambeau for a lot of like the standard size 36, 37, and the 3003 size boxes. Even the smaller boxes, if we're being honest, I use these for terminal tackle, stuff like that. These are super handy for hooks and weights and things like that. Really small. You can get these things for like $2 a pop at Walmart. So um, I've got those for pretty much anything and everything terminal tackle related. And depending on what I'm going to do that day, you can see this is just Tokyo rigs. So I've got some that are unrigged, some that are rigged. I've got some tungsten weights in there, stuff like that. So I've got those for pretty much every technique. I've got them for just Ned rig heads, got them for drop shot hooks and weights, got them for Tokyo rigs, kind of anything that you would think of. That way I don't have to bring an entire 3600 size box just for terminal tackle. And that definitely comes in handy. So, all right. Next up, got 2 crankbaits from Bandit. You guys saw me unbox from Tackle Warehouse a couple of Bomber Square A's. In fact, I picked up, I think, 3 of them. And these are awesome baits, but Bandit kind of falls into the same category. I think maybe they're even owned by the same company, but they're both old school lure manufacturers that make really decent baits for a good price too. So Bandit is really known for their 100, 200, and 300 series of crankbaits, and I throw both the 100 and 200 a fair amount. The 200 is like a true mid diver, somewhere in that like 4 to 8 foot of water, and the 100 is a 2 to 5 foot diver. Now it is a little bit lighter in weight. Doesn't say on the package, and I don't believe I have my scale down here to weigh this out, but if I'm not mistaken, this is somewhere in the ballpark of a 1/4 ounce, maybe 5/16. So what's cool that you'll notice is that this baby bass pattern, while it's not perfect, is pretty dang similar to the Bomber one. In fact, I think the Bomber looks a little bit better, but here we go. I'll open up this Bandit 100 for you. And yeah, not the most detailed lateral line on it. However, pretty solid color scheme. It's got a little bit more natural of an eye on it, not as bold as the one on the Bomber, but as you can see, this has a really short, squared off lip to it. It's got that subtle rattle in a Bandit that is typical, where that rattle will sometimes get stuck, uh, which, in my opinion, is both good and bad. It can mess with the way that the bait runs, which is not a good thing. And sometimes these baits do need to be tuned a little bit. However, when that rattle goes in and out, it can not only make the bait do some funny things, but it comes back in just as easily as it goes out. So uh, I believe these baits are made from butyrate. And so you get that little bit of a different action in the water, different deflection and flotation that you get out of like a Norman bait. But as you can see here, for a while now, they've been putting Mustad triple grips stock on these things straight in the package. So uh, solid. I really rarely change those out. Sometimes I will put a round bend on the rear as opposed to leaving both of the EWGs on there, just because that typically tends to be my favorite way of rigging up treble hooks on crankbaits. So what I might do, for example, is take a round bend from this 13 Fishing Flatty Daddy, potentially. Although it might be a little bit too big for this bait. This looks to be either more like a size 8 on this bait. So I might just put an owner ST36 in a size 8 or a Gamakatsu round bend and swap that out. So these bandits were $5.99. That sounds about like retail price to me. I don't know if I'm right about that, but this other color pattern that I got, which is called Metal Flake Shad, is one that I'm a big fan of. Lucky Craft makes a color pattern like this, where you get that kind of grayish blue with some sparkle on top. You get that shad pattern on the side with a lot of flash on top of that white, and then you get a chartreuse belly. So really good looking color pattern here. Also $5.99, really good price on that. So I've got a couple of the 100s already. I've got a handful of the 200s, but figured I'd pick up a couple more. And sometimes these purchases are just kind of impulse purchases when I'm shopping at Discount Tackle for the month. So there's no real rhyme or reason for why I picked some of these baits up, because quite honestly, we're in the off season for me. At this point, I'm really shopping ahead for next year. So if you saw what I picked up during my order at the Hookup Tackle, it was really a wide variety of stuff, ranging from square bills to rattle traps to topwater walking baits. And so I'm also picking up flat sides and shallow diving square bills and jerk baits. So let's talk about jerk baits next. Daniel says the Flambeau waterproof boxes are legit too for electronics or anything that you don't want to get wet on the water. Yeah, man. Good point. Matt says, yeah, I have the Flambeau mini box for weights. Works well, but then I got that Ryugi R tank, and that little weight box is crazy, nice and very versatile. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that box right there, but you said you have a couple Bandit 100s and 200s are pretty nice. Like the rattle that they have. I do too, man. Kid Iraq, Ray in the house, man. 6 cent shad scales, clone on the sides. No, that's not true. I think Lucky Craft is really the company who made the scales first, and 6 cents started doing it more and more. But I agree, they also do those, so it's not necessarily unique. Um, you say, "Come on, you're not buying for next season. You're buying because you're an addict." That is a fact, man. Um, I would show you what's on this table right in front of me, between me and you, but I'm a little embarrassed. I showed Matt after he came on here and did the live stream with me 2 weeks ago. It's an absolute mess and a disaster. If you guys want, I may or may not show you. Um, I'm embarrassed, but I'd be willing to show you just the stuff that is in here that is not organized. It's become quite the disaster over the course of this season. I almost said disease, and it is a disease. The addiction that we have to fishing tackle. So maybe, but still a clone, says Ray. That's funny. Matt says, same man, just getting prepared for next year. It should be warmer than usual the next month. And I feel like fishing is going to be different next year. I think the fish will start making beds sooner. So far, it feels like that. But what if El Nino hits us and we have a longer than average winter that lasts through April or into May? Then maybe it'll happen later than we think. So it all depends on the way that winter goes. But guys, next up, and this is a bait that I'm actually really excited about. It was not on my radar until I started reading reviews about this thing. And this is the 13 Fishing Loco Special. Okay. 13 makes two different jerk baits. And this right here is their high-end jerk bait that is made to, say, compete with or rival the Megabass Vision 110. It is not a cheap jerkbait by any means. Um, and so 13 did not cut any corners with the design of this bait. And and so far, lots and lots of pros are speaking well. Oh, I'm gonna hook myself. Pros that are not even sponsored by 13 are talking about just how good and how effective this jerkbait is. This is a suspending jerkbait that dives only 3 to 5 feet. So you'll see, I believe it's printed on the bait, if I'm not mistaken, right there for you. 3 to 5 feet. Okay. Loco Special 110. And this guy right here is a very similar pattern to what I just showed you. And another reason that Ray is not necessarily correct in saying that 6 Cents came up with that shad scales pattern. This is called neon disco shad. So you get a lot of the same colors in this bait, but a little bit more of a black, brown, and then right into that silvery white. Kind of looks like my Rocky Mountains here with that cutout, and then a chartreuse belly. So really cool shape here that's not quite like anything, but is pretty similar to everything on the market. And again, comes with solid hardware on here. These are all EWG trebles, so reminds me a little bit of like the 6 Cents Provoke in that it comes with 3 EWG treble hooks on them stock. But this has a pretty standard weight transfer system, very loud rattles, and it's supposed to have a very crisp action and very solid suspension on it. So I don't know exactly what makes it unique or better than most, but this is a 110 size jerkbait that suspends really well, just a little bit shallower than what you'd get out of like a Megabass Vision 110, but it's priced right at like where a Lucky Craft pointer is priced at about $16. So it is pricey, but the reason that I got it is that at Discount Tackle, this thing was on sale for $12.79. So just like the argument that I used to make for a jackhammer chatterbait, it's that 20% off of a pretty expensive bait. Now, Daniel, I will tell you right now, these are good hooks for sure. But like I said, they're all EWGs. So what I would do personally is at least change out the rear for a round bend. I might leave the front two on there, even though they're EWGs. But in general, with a bait like this that is more expensive and that has a good reputation for suspending well out of the package with the hardware that comes on it, I prefer not to mess with them. So, I might even go so far as to pull out my scale, take one of these hooks off, and weigh it to just be as precise as possible in swapping out with a hook that is not only the right size, but also the right weight. So it does not affect the position of this bait when it suspends. Now, I have not seen it in the water, so I can't tell you whether it suspends horizontal, nose down, or tail down. But my guess is that it's slightly nose down. That is what is typically what you'd see, but this thing dives just a little bit shallower and is supposed to suspend really well and also have a crisp darting action. So I'm definitely curious to try this bait. Again, it's called the Loco Special 110. $16 jerkbait from 13. So Ray, you're a funny guy. But yes, you're usually right. You're usually right. Ray says some other companies may have come up with that design first, but I'm not arguing that, am I? Shad Scales is, always has been, and still is 6 cents. No doubt about that. You're right, dude. You are right. Derek says those are excellent tips with the hooks. Definitely makes a difference in action on jerk baits. I appreciate that. Okay, guys. The other color that I picked up in this bait is called Olive Crush. Let me see if I can show you guys what this thing looks like. Wow, look at that top. I had no idea, and you could not see this in pictures if you wanted to. That is, woo! I'm a fan of that. Check that freaking thing out. Wow. That's not even focusing, but still, wow. Look at that thing. Sparkle galore. And then it fades to a translucent olive green color. A little bit of a brown cheek on there. And then a transparent with a little bit of orange in there, depending on the refraction of light that you get. You guys can see the weight transfer system inside this bait right now. Both of those balls shift from the back to the front. Okay. Really like this color pattern. Olive Crush. Is that what I said it's called? Olive Crush. So again, these are the shallower diving 3 to 5 foot version of the Loco Special. However, they do make a deeper diver, like a +1 style that dives, I think, 6 to 9 foot. So I prefer a shallow to medium diving jerk bait, mostly because I'm fishing from the shore a majority of the time. But that said, there is definitely a time and a place for a deeper diver. So I admire the fact that 13 fishing, not 6 cents, that 13 came out with both diving depths, both versions at the same time. So you can get the 3 to 5 or the 6 to 9 foot diver right now. Whatever is your preference, depending on how you fish, where you fish, uh, what the fish tend to relate to, you can go with a shallow or a medium diver. Um, and I should say deeper diver, but 9 feet technically isn't deep, but usually fish are going to come up to eat a jerk bait. So, in my opinion, that's more the +1 depth, not the +2 or a true diver. But you're right. Um, Daniel says not bad on price if compared to the Vision 110. You're absolutely right, especially if you're buying from Discount Tackle. We're talking half the price of a Vision 110. If you paid full price, you're still talking 60% of retail, 70% maybe, right? So a Vision 110 coming in at 25 bucks and almost never discounted unless you buy it from Tackle Warehouse or the Hookup Tackle during Black Friday is no doubt a very expensive bait, but undoubtedly the best jerk bait on the market. Now, best bang for your buck, that's hard to say. I don't know that many people would make that argument for the Megabass Vision 110, but it is still the best bait on the market. So I am curious to see how this Loco Special fits into my arsenal and whether it becomes a bait that I throw more often and feel more comfortable using because of its price tag and because of its slightly shallower diving depth. If it has a little bit more aggressive of an action or performs better in warmer water than a Vision 110, it might end up being a little bit more of a year-round jerk bait for me. So I'm definitely curious about it. I had to pick at least these two up right now, and we shall see. I will keep you guys posted, but I'd also love to know if you guys have ever tried it, uh, seen or heard anything about it, have an opinion yourselves just yet. Ray says, "Did you fish today, Tyler?" I did not. Um, I was out slow rolling a GoPro on the bottom of my lake, looking at what structure I could find and what was hanging up all my lures. That's awesome, dude. P.S. I'm wrong all the time. That's hilarious. What a great idea that is. Slow rolling a GoPro on the bottom of your lake. I hope the water's a little bit clear so that you actually have a look at what's down there. But how fascinating is that? I have considered doing that kind of thing before, um, but not quite. That's a different idea and pretty genius. So, especially if you know that you're losing a lot of baits in one specific area, brilliant, man. Matt says, "Yeah, not a bad price. Looks like a good bait. The Berkeley Stunna is one that I want to try." Yeah, me too. Just picked up a couple of those last month. You guys saw me pull those out. So those are definitely the two newest jerk baits that I am most excited about. Uh, do I have them in this box? I reorganized my jerk baits not that long ago, and I don't remember where I put the Stunnas. I think I got them in here. This used to be a JDM specific box for me, but what I decided to do was move pretty much all of my favorite 3 hook jerk baits that are roughly the same size into the same box. So here's that Stunna. Um, I have it in like 3 different sizes. And how interesting is it that this bait is also a new one on the market that comes with EWG hooks stock on it. Sorry for the lack of focus, but you can see that all of these hooks are stock EWG. Makes me wonder why more and more companies are beginning to do that. Other than the fact that, here you go, Ray, 6 Cents kind of started that trend with all of their baits putting EWGs on there. There are very few baits that 6 Cents puts round bend hooks on in the package. They use EWGs like first and foremost by a long shot. Okay. Now, let me catch up on these comments and then I'm going to show you the next thing up. Michael says, "Have you tried the Dr. Minnow by Daiwa?" No, I have not. I'm from New Mexico and I really like the HD trout. What's your favorite colors? Yeah, dude. I am a big fan of the HD trout. Uh, I wish I had that box on me. It's upstairs. I always have it kind of on the ready. Unless I know I'm going to talk about it in a specific stream, in which case I will bring it down here. And I talk about it pretty frequently on this channel. So, yeah, the Dynamic Lures HD Trout is one of, if not my just all-time favorite hard bait or lure to throw at trout when fishing for trout. I do prefer to fly fish, but if I'm throwing lures, the HD trout is probably my go-to confidence bait for sure. So, um, you're right. I've definitely tried them, and I love them. That brown trout color pattern has been the most productive for me over the years. It's pretty bold in nature, but I throw the rainbow trout patterns. There's like 3 of them. Ghost rainbow. They make like a shiny rainbow trout pattern. I throw the pink one. Um, but honestly, I have pretty much all of them. We can talk about that either offline or on a future upcoming stream where I can make a point to show you all the color patterns that I have when I prefer to use certain colors over another. But I have probably 10 different color patterns in that bait and am a big fan of it. especially when fishing current. But even in still water, I will fish that thing on a medium to medium fast retrieve and very rarely jerk the bait. I usually fish it on a straight retrieve, and I've had tremendous success on that bait. So, um, Dr. Minnow from Daiwa, interesting, man. Are you on Instagram? If you are, Michael, um, hit me up on there. My profile is hooksets dot r free. Same name, just with a period in between Hooksets and R free. And I would appreciate it if you send me a message and remind me of the Dr. Minnow from Daiwa. I might need to try that one out. And Matt says, what I did at my water is wait for the lowest tide there and go at that time to see all the structure and pockets near the rocks, see the snags and deepest spots so I know what cranks to use. Yeah, good point. This year has been just a remarkably dry year here in Colorado. The water was down 5 to 10 feet on average, depending on the body of water that you'd go to. So I've actually just taken pictures of the shoreline and of everything that I can see all fall this year, toward the tail end of the season, as the water was the lowest, so that I can take not only a mental note, but be able to refer back just like you would in going on Google Maps and scrolling back a few years or more than that to see when the water was down, what the shoreline looks like, what begins to poke out of the water when it comes to brush piles and trees, things like that. If the lighting conditions are right, you can actually see what's below the water. But it's a great idea, and something that I've made a point to do a fair amount of this year as well. So yeah, I hear you, Ray and Matt. Absolutely. Matt says they work well with EWG. I have a jerkbait um, and it works well. Keep the fish pinned to the hooks better. Guys are putting them on swim baits as well more now. Yeah, I mean, the main trade-offs with round bends versus EWGs is pretty straightforward, right? Is that a round bend is going to hook up better, but an EWG is going to keep fish pinned better. Pretty straightforward. An O'Shaughnessy hook kind of fills that gap right in between, and you're starting to see more hooks that are kind of a hybrid. But if you get fish that are more finicky and are slapping at baits, but not engulfing or actually eating the bait, a round bend tends to be better. If you're getting fish um, that are more aggressive and are going to eat the bait, um, are not going to just try and slap at it or kill it, then of course an EWG is better. And that's why I tend to think that an EWG up front and a round bend in the back is the best bet, because it's more typical that a fish will eat a bait or a bait fish head first. So if they're being more aggressive, boom, they'll eat it head first. You'll get them hooked and pinned still with that front hook. But if they're slapping at the bait and just trying to kill it, but not necessarily try to eat it, your odds of hooking up with the fish on that rear treble goes way up. And then as you're fighting the fish, your odds of potentially getting another hook in them are still relatively decent. So I like kind of having the best of both worlds when it comes to the types of hooks that I'm using on different baits. But if I'm using small bodied crankbaits like this Bandit 100, I don't think it's a bad idea to have EWGs on both. It's such a small bait that the odds of them actually hitting it and just slapping at it are pretty slim. With a really small bodied crankbait like that, they're more likely to actually eat the thing. But we could talk about that for a long time. So sorry about that. I just got behind. My bad. Ray says, not clear at a distance, but when you get to a stump or a rock, it's clear as day. Depends on the lake, I suppose. Of course it does. But I was just wondering about your lake. that's awesome that you can actually see the stumps and rocks. I hope that you're kind of making a mental note, uh, setting waypoints, if you will, so that you know what is there and how to target that structure for next year. If you've got rocks, maybe you need to be throwing a drop shot or a Ned rig or a football jig a little bit more. If you've got a stump, maybe you need to be throwing a square bill crankbait or flipping a Texas rig right up close to that stump. That's awesome, dude. Ray says, I've gone to the dark side, bro. Finally bought some more tackle. Little 6 cents, but 150 bucks of freaking Rapala. Those DT6s and OG Slims have just been lights out. I'm hooked. Yeah, man. I mean, you guys know how big of a fan I am of the Rapala baits, right? I already showed you guys recently. These are DT10s, DT6, DT4, and the BX Brats. I've got a 3,700 size box just packed to the brim full of those baits. So I don't even want to do the math, but um, yeah, I mean we're talking over 50 baits um, in just that family from Rapala that is balsa crankbaits. So I'm with you, dude. Ray says, and speaking of fishing, those TFO bass rods are intriguing to me. You should do a review for us. I don't have any TFO rods. My mom has a TFO fly rod, but I do not have any TFO bass rods. So maybe I need to get into a little bit more TFO and St. Croix moving forward. Because I do think that both brands are really well made and have the right intentions in mind, and also are generally made at a pretty reasonable price point. So, thank you for the suggestion, Bruce Nichols in the house. What's up, dude? How you doing, Bruce? I don't know if I recognize your name, but good to see you in here. Thank you for hanging out tonight. Hope you're doing well. Matt says, I like my round bends overall, though to be honest, my swim baits, every time I get a swim bait that has them, I switch them out because I've had a lot of success with them. Don't like changing. Sure. I mean, to each his own, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you have a hook of preference, I don't blame you for changing out your hooks on most things that you get to that hook. So, totally understandable. Daniel, the DT8 has not quite dropped yet, but it is coming. Yeah, it's just disappointing. Like I hate to pre-order stuff on Tackle Warehouse and then have it potentially not show up for months and months and months. So no, not yet, man. I considered getting some DT fat threes and even maybe the ones, um, but that DT8 will fill a void that is necessary and probably end up replacing my DT10s. If we're being honest, I prefer smaller bodied crankbaits in general. So that DT8 is going to do most of what the DT10 does for me, but in a smaller profile with kind of that similar type of action. So where the DT6 can't quite get as deep, the size difference between a 6 and a 10 is significant. And not always something that I am a fan of, right? Let's just, for example, here's the demon color. Here's the DT10. Okay. And right next to it, here's the DT6. So if I put them side by side, you can see that the bill is substantially bigger on the DT10, but that body is way bigger too. I mean, pretty crazy and substantial difference there, right? So the 8 will definitely fill a gap, but in my opinion, with a body style a little bit more similar to the 6, it's going to fit my style of fishing just a little bit better than the 10. And so, of course, I will stock up on the 8s eventually. It's just a matter of whether I go all out right when they become available, or I wait till halfway through next season. We will have to see about that. Hey Bruce, you saw the Debo's show the night that I was on. Cool, man. Happy to hear that, and glad to see that you're joining in on my streams, and that maybe you've subscribed to the channel here. So really appreciate you, dude. All right. What? Matt says one bait I've never used is the DT. Water near me is too shallow. Dude, the DT4 is not too shallow. That thing will run 2 to 4 feet, no problem. You definitely need to have the DT4 in your arsenal, especially because it has a little bit of a different and even louder rattle than the 6, 10, and up. They've got the 14, 16, and 20, but that DT4 is absolutely killer, especially if you're throwing the BX Brat. You said that you're throwing maybe even the Big Brat, which is a 6-foot diver. So really no excuse for not having the DT4 and the DT6. Both are absolutely killer baits. Okay, guys, next up in this unboxing is the Z-Man Chatterbait Mini Max. This is a bait that I've been waiting on for a while now. And we talked about it when I was shopping for Black Friday, right? I was looking at this bait on Tackle Warehouse. They had a limited number of colors and sizes available. And someone on here, maybe it was Daniel, told me that it was cheaper and had slightly better availability at Discount Tackle. So I made a point to remove these baits from my order at Tackle Warehouse from Black Friday and go over to Discount Tackle. And it just so happened that by the time it came to pulling the trigger on this month's package from Discount Tackle, the 3/8 was back in stock in almost every color. It was just a half ounce for a while, which, to be honest, in a chatterbait, I don't throw a half ounce all that frequently. In my opinion, a quarter ounce is harder to fish. You almost have to throw different gear to be able to make the bait do what you want it to do. But for me, a 3/8 ounce chatterbait is the deal in most circumstances. Now, what makes this bait unique compared to others? I wish I had my chatterbait box with me. My high-end chatterbait box is not sitting in here. I think it's upstairs. And I really wanted to be able to show you guys kind of a side-by-side. Oh, screw it. I've got 3 of these sitting here. Half ounce, 3/8. I'm just going to go ahead and open one of these, even though I don't need to. I've got 3 of them unopened and in the package sitting here at my desk. So here is the jackhammer chatterbait in the fire craw. Okay. Obviously a beautiful, beautiful bait. This has been in demand like crazy the last 2 or 3 seasons. In fact, people were spending 2 or 3 times the retail value to get these during the pre-spawn. Absolutely outrageous. So I do have more of these than I need. But here, right next to it, is the new Z-Man Chatterbait Mini Max. And these are literally side by side. So you can see that this blade is some 40% smaller than the jackhammer. So this is a small blade, and on top of that, it's got a smaller hook. Check that out. So the jackhammer comes with a 4/0 Gamakatsu flipping hook, and the Mini Max comes with a 2/0. I believe it's a Mustad Ultra Point, but let me double check. It doesn't say what brand it is. It just says a 2/0 black nickel hook, heavy duty premium hook. So I don't know who makes this. This does have a little bit more of a traditional bait keeper on it that is just a dual barb lead keeper. Now the skirt is hand tied, but there's no eyes on this head. So you do get the fire craw pattern, which has become more and more widely available in all of the chatterbaits in Z-Man's lineup, as well as other manufacturers' lineups. So you can get the Thunder Cricket and a bunch of other chatterbaits now in a fire craw color pattern. So it's not just the jackhammer anymore. And that has really happened over the last year or more. And I've got the fire craw in like 4 or 5 different chatterbaits made by Z-Man, as well as in the evergreen grass ripper swim jig. But let me do a final comparison and show you guys. Here's the mini. Here is the jackhammer. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you guys these properly. And here is the big blade. How cool is that? We got the whole fam here, guys. So the big blade chatterbait, jackhammer, and the Mini Max. That is going to cover quite a wide variety of situations and different vibrations, frequencies, what the bait does, and what trailers you use. The big blade comes with a 6/0 hook on it. So literally you have a 2, 4, 6, small, medium, large. And that to me is pretty sick. So yeah, sorry that I'm getting behind on these comments, but no, Matt, you thought the numbers were meters? Those are feet, dude, on the DTs. Get out of here. How could a DT 20 be in meters? That means it would be diving some 60 feet. Get out of here. Daniel says, if you have a bait question, this is the chat room for it. Between Tyler, Matt, and Ray, it's pretty much like having an encyclopedia of lures. Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, Bruce, welcome to have you anytime, dude. We would love to have you in here. And to be honest, I do stream at a little bit later of a time on average. Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights are usually my my available times, and it's later at night. I've got 3 young kids, so I don't usually hop on here until about this time, between 9 and 9:30 my time, Mountain Standard Time, aka 2 hours later on the East Coast. So 11 to 11:30 is when I'm going live Eastern Time. And I'm on here for anywhere from an hour to 2 hours at a time, usually once or twice a week. So yeah, we all just kind of nerd out and talk about fishing gear. And I usually have some fresh stuff to talk about. So yeah, appreciate you being here, dude. You guys are talking about underwater cameras. Yeah, Ray, I was going to do kind of the same thing with the Aqua View. Why not just use the GoPro? I totally hear you, man. Might as well. Bruce just got back into fishing after a 25-year break. His brother has a pond less than 30 feet from his back door. That's awesome. The shop used 99% of the time. Watching these shows is bad for the wallet, he says. Yeah, I hear you. You just got to exercise a little bit of restraint, if you will. you don't have to go purchasing stuff every time you see something cool. Here's another little shameless plug for Discount Tackle, one of the best places to shop online for fishing gear all year round. Um, and honestly, it's not like they carry crappy gear. I'm telling you, everything I bought in this order tonight, other than maybe those Bandit 100s, was discounted. Um, so we're talking high dollar baits. Those Z-Man Chatterbait Mini Maxes, they retail for like $9 or $10, maybe $10. I got them for $7.82. Feel pretty decent about that. But specifically, the 13 fishing baits is where I saved most of my money. I saved $3.50 on these jerk baits, so that's $7. I saved $2 or $3 on this crankbait, so $10 right there, plus the Z-Man stuff. And it just goes up from there. So I thought there were a couple more things that I had in here. Maybe I just dropped them. I guess I literally, last thing in the package is one pack of soft plastics. So I didn't realize I actually got 3 of the Mini Max chatterbaits, all in the 3/8 ounce size. So I showed you guys I got the one in Fire Craw. Then I got one in a standard green pumpkin. And then I got one in this color that they call bluegill, but really it reminds me a lot of the Brett's bluegill jackhammer chatterbait. Now the blade is gold on this guy, so it's really the same exact color, right? You got that orange on bottom and more of that like watermelony green with the gold blade. So interesting that they don't call it Brett's bluegill. They just call this bluegill. But 3 of the chatterbait mini maxes, and last but not least is a pack of soft plastics. And this right here is the Zoom Centipede in green pumpkin. So I don't know what it was that I saw recently about the old French fry, but this right here is an old school bait, and one that, to be honest, I have never fished. The Zoom Centipede, aka the French fry, for a long time was a super versatile finesse fishing soft plastic bait for bass. The cool thing about these is they come 20 to a pack, so they're very cost effective. I paid less than $5 for the pack of these baits, and you get a flat bottom and then these French fry ribbed sides. Okay, you get that kind of pointy tail. So this bait is awesome on a drop shot, but it's really good on a wacky rig. This was kind of one of the original wacky rig baits before the Senko came out. And not just that, but this bait is somehow notorious for being a wicked Carolina rig bait. So I don't know exactly what the magic is about this bait. I imagine it would be very good on a Nico rig, even on a shaky head. But this is just a little 4-inch do nothing soft plastic bait that that is supposed to be awesome. So I've never fished the centipede or the French fry. And back in the day, there used to be a handful of baits with that same profile, that same action, similar name even. So a number of manufacturers used to make that type of bait and really don't anymore. So yeah, decided to pick up a pack of the centipedes. That does it for this month's unboxing. And believe it or not, all of that adds up to $71. So, a couple of Bandit crankbaits, 13 fishing flat-sided crankbait, 2 13 fishing Loco Special jerk baits, 3 Chatterbait Mini Max uh, chatterbaits, and a pack of Zoom centipedes. 71 bucks. Baba boom, baby. So, let's see here. Justin, Pickle Throw in the house. What's up, dude? How are you doing tonight? Hope everything is going well for you. Matt's talking about creating a YouTube channel. What's up? That would be cool. Megaforce 728. What's up? Love wintertime for cleaning gear and getting all the sales and sometimes going out to fish. I hear you. Absolutely. It's just about time for me to do some cleaning up. I don't even want to show you uh, just the mess of stuff that is sitting in front of me. I've got probably, you know, 15 frogs and a whole bunch of crankbaits and swim baits and jerk baits and uh, literally crap everywhere. But it is about that time of year to really get everything honed in, organized, evaluate what I have, what I need, how I plan to fish next year, primarily where I'm going to fish, do a little bit of research, and then yeah, I mostly do fly fishing this time of year. I will occasionally get out to do some multi-species fishing, but there's not a lot of that to do here in Colorado, where we do get a lot of snow, and most of our still water does freeze over. So pretty much everything here gets stocked with trout. There are some places where I could catch smallmouth, uh, walleye, carp, things like that, but it's a lot more rare to catch them in the wintertime. So I hear you, man. It is that time of year to kind of get a little bit more mental with it instead of just getting out any and every time possible and trying to catch as many fish as possible. I'm with you though. Bruce says 3/8 seems to be the sweet spot for the pond. Deepest part is 15 feet. Yeah, I mean you could definitely fish a half ounce with 15 foot of water, but uh, for where I fish, and most depths tend to be right in that, anywhere from 0 to 6 or 8 feet deep. Yeah, 3/8 ounce is ideal, especially when it comes to a chatterbait. I find that a half ounce does bump the bottom quite a bit more frequently. So sometimes it comes in handy if if fish aren't quite being as aggressive, and if I'm throwing something like a craw pattern. That's why I've got, two of the fire craws in the half ounce that are unopened right now. I've got a handful of them in craw colors, like uh, the fire craw and the Heights Hot craw in the half ounce, because sometimes I do want to fish it a little bit slower and or be able to make more contact with rocks along the bottom, rip it out of grass, things like that. So sometimes a half ounce does come in handy, but a 3/8 ounce is the most versatile, that's for sure, in terms of how you can fish it. You can slow it down and still fish it effectively, but you can burn it and it's usually not going to blow out. Uh, I typically still like to throw a 3/8 ounce chatterbait on a medium to medium fast retrieve, and every 4 to 6 turns of the reel handle, I will give it a pump, kind of speed it up for 1 or 2 turns of the reel handle, and then go back to a steady retrieve. Uh, so just kind of occasionally making the bait hunt and do some wild action on its own. Um, that is my most common way of fishing a chatterbait, but sometimes I will just fish it a little bit faster on like a fast retrieve. Uh, but usually medium to medium fast with an occasional speed up is what does the trick for me. Sometimes I'll burn it. I will very rarely slow roll a chatterbait. What I'll do instead is kill it, dead stick it, rip it, kill it. Just yo-yo it up off the bottom and then straight swim it the second half of the retreat. Um, so yeah, sorry to go off on a tangent. I know you didn't really ask about that. Daniel says, "Do you have any of the Z-Man Chatterbait Freedom CFL?" Yes, I do. Uh, the CFL is the football head. The original Freedom um, has more of a swim bait looking head on it, and no, I have those in my other box of chatterbaits. So these are my slightly lesser known chatterbaits, or the ones that I fish a little bit less. In here, I've got the. This is actually a chatterbait that I probably should have been fishing more recently, and this is the bucktail chatterbait by Z-Man. Um, I've got some bladed jigs from Booyah and from Strike King, from Terminator and from Fishhead. Um, I've got a variety, but that Freedom chatterbait is definitely an interesting one, man. I like being able to switch out the hook on it. So that the original Freedom comes with an EWG hook on it, but the CFL comes with a flipping hook on it. And sometimes I will swap those out because I like to fish the CFL like a standard wobble head, like you would expect. It is really a hard head style lure meant to be fished uh, low. I don't want to say slow necessarily because you can fish it fast and it will stay down in the column. And they make it in some heavy weights. So I throw it in the half and the 3/4 ounce. Uh, but I do like to sometimes swap the hook for either an EWG or a round bend. Uh, I don't always keep a flipping hook on there. Depends on the structure that I'm fishing, but it will sometimes hang up if you're just using the flipping hook on it, and you've got your hook exposed. So, that's a straight shank flipping hook. So I will rig that kind of half and half. Sometimes I will rig it like a flipping bait, but then the way that it's oriented with the hook kind of barely tucked into the bait, it it swims a little bit weird. So I like to thread that on there as opposed to rig it like you would, a flipping bait. So I like to swap the hooks on that one. But yeah, odd looking head, but good. That's the beauty of those Freedom Tackle heads. And the reason that Z-Man partnered up with them is because you can swap out hooks with that custom head style for sure. Um, Ray says, okay, Six Sense definitely cloned that. What with the French fry and their Ned fry? Yeah, you're right about that. Um, kind of smart of them though, because there's not that many people on the market that are actually making a French fry style bait. So for them to come up with something like that is just almost throwing it back. And their Ned fry is awesome. I actually use it quite a bit, especially because it comes in that 4.5 inch size. Kind of reminds me of like the Robo Worm 4.5 inch Ned worm as something that is pretty versatile because of its length. It's not necessarily just a Ned rig bait. Because it's made in a 4.5 inch size, you can throw it on a Nico rig or a wacky rig or a weighted wacky rig or on a shaky head. But ideally, what you do is cut it down to more like 3 to 3.5 inches and throw it on a Ned rig, and it's going to perform best. So, um, I don't know about the French fry. I really don't know its buoyancy, that centipede from Zoom. So we'll have to see about that. Justin, no, I actually don't do any ice fishing. Um, that is something that I need to change here in the next year or two. It's just something that I never grew up doing. I know a couple people here in Colorado that do it, but I am such a diehard skier that when I go up to the mountains, when I'm making a day trip and going out for the day, I really prefer to hit the slopes. I went last Sunday, just 4 days ago, and got my first day on the mountain up at Vale and had a lovely time. They just opened some new terrain, got about a foot of fresh snow a week ago, last Thursday night into Friday morning. So the conditions are just starting to look up when it comes to skiing. So, no, I ski a lot more than I ice fish. In fact, about 20 times as much. Michael says, "Nice haul. I want to buy the Mini Max chatterbaits. Um, good color for spring." Yeah, dude, for sure. Especially this little guy right here. But man, I am curious what this little blade will do. So much that I'm almost tempted to take it with me. I'll probably go trout fishing if I have the opportunity to go fishing tomorrow, but I might bring this with me just to throw for the sake of getting a feel for its action because I was really surprised when I first fished the big blade chatterbait. I was overwhelmed and underwhelmed at the same time. I was overwhelmed at how hard the thing thumped. I was underwhelmed because I had high hopes for this bait, and in the moment that I tried it, was disappointed. Uh, Thought that there might not be a real place in my fishing arsenal and the way that I fish to use that bait. But I just learned that with a little bit of a gear change, that it doesn't have to be an overpowering bait. That it really does come down to the rod and the line that you're using to get the most out of the bait. And I'm sure that's the case with the Mini Max as well with the tiny size of this blade. My guess is that a medium power rod or maybe a medium heavy, but really something that's going to have um, a little bit more give to it is going to be more appropriate, where the opposite is true for the big blade. So, sorry guys. You guys are just chatting amongst each other, and I appreciate that. I like that. Fishing for Bass TV says, "What do you think about Huddlestons?" Um, I wish I had more to say. I've really only fished their smaller sizes up until now, and it wasn't until this year, just literally a week or two ago, at Tackle Warehouse, that I decided to pick up the 8-inch Huddleston, and yeah, there's no real reason for that other than the fact that um, I don't throw a lot of pre-rigged larger soft plastic swim baits. I use the Savage Gear pulse tail baits, which I know get a little bit of a bad rap sometimes because they're a wedge tail design, and some people feel like it is a knockoff of Huddleston. However, um, it is a different bait. It's weighted differently. The details are different on it, and the action that you get out of this tail is a little bit more aggressive than what you get out of a Huddleston. But that said, I really don't have any excuse for not using a Huddleston until now. So for me, it was just a matter of time, and I knew that. So I decided to go for it this year. Huddlestons, in my opinion, are really great baits, but are pretty technique specific. So um, cold water or super warm water, when fish are hunkered down and are on the bottom and are wanting to pin baits to the bottom as opposed to chase. Um, Now, maybe follow or react to a bait coming right by them if you're not bumping it on bottom, but doing a kind of a slow swim close to the bottom. That's where I think Huddlestons excel is on bottom, super slow, or close to the bottom, medium slow. And yeah, that's the thing is they're kind of a lazy, easy meal for big bass, and they've got a great reputation. I just can't speak to them and say all that much about them. I just know what they're for, and I'm hoping to get in on that a little bit this upcoming year. So appreciate you asking. Fishing for bass, but yeah, I've got some bodies of water where perch is one of the main sources of forage, and this 8-inch perch should be an awesome imitation of that bait fish, and I'm very excited to give it a try this upcoming season. So we will see, man. And Bruce says on the 3/8 ounce chatter, where you tie the line on, would a swivel be better than the wire connection? What? No, the snap is the deal, dude. Honestly, I would not put a swivel on here. The snap is on there for a reason. That is what is going to give the best freedom of movement to this blade. And you are never going to get the bait to roll on you. You're not going to get line twist. You do not need a swivel by any means. Okay. If you feel the chatterbait blade stop moving, that is because you've got grass hung up in this blade and it's not moving freely. And all you need to do is rip the bait out and it will clear the grass off of that blade. Sometimes you can even just reel really quickly and it will cause that blade to move faster and clear what is in the way, obstruction wise. The only other thing that might happen to you is if you are using a cheaper chatterbait. So, for example, the original chatterbait is a decent example of that. Of course, I make a point to try and clear these out, but sometimes the paint will be covered all over the line tie um, of this bait, where the blade attaches to the head. But what you get is a little bit less freedom of movement side to side. And sometimes this will get jammed because of the paint in here or because this hole is not wide enough. Um, and what happens is it will kind of get stuck where it is. So there is no fixing that really. I just recommend using a higher quality chatterbait. And so even if you're just going to step up to like the chatterbait custom, the Tackle Warehouse has exclusively, or the chatterbait elite, which has a similar head, but a nicer hook on it and just a little bit better of a connection there. Slightly better hardware and hook on there. That can make all the difference. So no swivel, but yes on the snap. Okay. Yeah, Ray, the Ned Fry just plain works. You're right about that, dude. Snowboarding was a lot harder than I thought. Never skied, thought I'd be really good at it since I grew up skiing and surfing, but about 1000% less friction on the snow. Yeah, I hear you, man. Snowboarding is hard to pick up, especially once you're older. I will say that. It's just as easy to learn snowboarding as it is skiing when you're a kid and you have zero fear of falling. But there's a steeper learning curve to learning how to snowboard once you grow up. I will say that. And I can do both. I grew up skiing from a very young age, got into snowboarding at like 9 or 10 years old, did it for a few years, kind of half and half. and I got to the point of being a decent snowboarder, but um, I've always been a very good skier. So I can go anywhere on the mountain that I want to on skis and will frequently pursue the more out there type of terrain in order to chase the freshest snow available and also give myself a challenge. So I'm a much more confident skier than I am a snowboarder. And so I very rarely snowboard anymore simply because I like to go hard when I have the opportunity to get out on the mountain. And I really only snowboard when I'm out on the mountain with people who don't know what they're doing. Um, and it's just more fun for me to be able to challenge myself on a snowboard while also waiting on the people to get down the mountain, as opposed to on skis when I'd probably rather venture off on my own. So Matt says a lot of guys burn their huddle stints. That's all I see guys saying about how they caught most of their fish on them, which is what you would think is the opposite, since you always hear guys saying go slow, go slow. Um, Burning their huddles. That's interesting. I have not heard that, but thanks for the heads up, dude. Man, might need to keep that in mind for next season. I did not know. Bruce says I don't have any snaps. I have a hard wire. Looks like the line is going to get snagged in it. What? That's it with the hard wire? I don't know what you're talking about, man. Um, on every chatterbait that you get, you're going to have a snap that comes stock on it, okay? So on the jackhammer, it comes with a decoy snap. Every chatterbait comes with one of these. I mean, I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Even the original chatterbaits come with snaps on them. That is how you're able to fish the bait. Is there are 3 holes in the blade. One that from the bottom attaches to that line tie of the head of the bait itself, and the two, the snap goes around and through. Does that make sense? Matt says, or they take the 8-inch HUD and they cut the tail off and add the 10-inch HUD to it, which gives the bait a major thump and a tail action. Interesting. So instead of the 68 special, it's uh the 80-10 special. The 810 special, the 810. I had never heard of that, dude. That's crazy. Michael says, good recommendations. I like the cross-eyed chatterbait, especially for bank fishing. Got some of the Picasso Shockblade heavy cover. Look similar. Yep, absolutely, man. I have both of those baits. I just don't think I have them sitting right in front of me in this huge mess that I have. But yes, the cross-eyed chatterbait is a great one. I really like how firm those wire guards are and how easily adjustable they are. But same with the Picasso shock blade. I almost wonder if those titanium weed guards are too robust, but I love them. And yeah, big fan. So I do think that increases the amount of confidence that anybody should have throwing a chatterbait into heavy cover, specifically around laydowns. You know, chatterbaits are known for being really good in grass, for being pretty good around rock, and for being not so good around wood. There used to be only a couple of chatterbaits on the market, specifically the Strike King Rage Blade, um, which performed really well around wood. And it's because of the configuration of the blade. So if you take a look at this thing, it doesn't look like your average chatterbait, right? The the lead weight is attached to the blade itself, and then the hook is attached separately. So when you make contact with wood, it bumps and then swims over. Uh, this blade stays pretty weedless, so it would come up and over wood better than pretty much any other bladed jig on the market. So the Striking Rage blade was one that for a number of years and still to this day is pretty dang underrated. And to that same point, the Booyah Melee is a very similarly made bladed jig that has a blade that is kind of stuck inside the head. I hate to go off on such a tangent here, but I'll show you that one too. So here we've got the head, and they've got it hollowed out, and the blade is attached inside the middle of the head. So it's not off the front. There is no line tie on this thing. So literally, it will not go forward past here. So when it's coming, the whole bait will come up and over a little bit better. So this is a little bit more effective of a bait for fishing around and through wood cover. So yeah, the Rage Blade and the Melee are two decent ones, but now we've got the cross-eyes chatterbait and the heavy cover shock blade from Picasso. Great baits. $810 special, says Matt. Yeah, man, it's interesting to learn that people are doing that combo with the 8 and the 10. That's a pretty expensive um, modification to Huddleston's, considering the 10-inch is like $70, right? So you're talking about $100 worth of two baits to remove the 10-inch tail and put it on the 8-inch bait. But I would imagine that it's a very effective modification nonetheless. And burning a Huddleston is something I'm going to need to keep in mind for the future. Appreciate that recommendation, man. Bruce, what are you talking about? The one that I pulled from the tackle tray has a hard wire slash lead and no snap. I will pull it back out, dude, but no, man. All of these have snaps. Oh, okay, okay, okay. This is called a fast dash snap. It's a different type of snap, okay, that Z-Man makes. But still, this guy right here, it works the same as a snap does. It's just, it's not quite as effective. But I think they use this style of attachment. It's a Mustad fast dash, I think is what they call it. Um, this style of attachment. And it works just fine. You can replace this with a snap, but there's not a whole lot of reason to do so. I don't think that is what causes the blade to get stuck so much as is the paint and just how tight this line tie is itself, and how small the hole is that they punch out on the blade. So all of those things could be done better if they made the hole on the blade bigger, if they used a wire that was thinner or made a larger hole in terms of closing that down. All of those things would allow more freedom of movement for the blade. But that is an issue when this thing doesn't want to move very easily, especially when you're trying to swim it fast. It doesn't do its job very well. So I'm not a huge fan of the original chatterbait. That's just me. Even when you can find it for, 3, $4, it's just, it does not perform the same as the vast majority of other bladed jigs and chatterbaits on the market. So that's my opinion, man. No, you still tied to the end of that style of snap. It's not going to get snagged. No. Matt, what scrounger are you talking about? What did I show? I already forget what I was just showing a few minutes ago. What was I showing? Um, you tell me. I'm already lost, man. I don't know what I was just showing. Scrounger? No, man. I wasn't showing a scrounger. Was I? Yeah, it's called the Strike King um, Rage Blade, dude. I think they even sell them at Walmart still to this day. The colors are not the most slick, but here's a black and blue with like a dark nickel blade on there. Comes with a Gamakatsu hook on it. Pretty sweet. It's got a pretty legit lead keeper on there. And then they make it in like a sexy shad pattern. More of like a traditional nickel. And then I showed you the green pumpkin one. So, yeah, the Rage Blade is a really good bladed jig, especially for fishing around heavy cover. And, for me, for a while, it was one of my go-to bladed jigs for like 2 or 3 years when I really first got into fishing chatterbait style baits. Now, I don't know where the naked one is here, but they do make a naked Rage Blade, which was essentially the precursor. It's what came out before the Stealth Blade jackhammer. Okay, it has a clear plastic blade on it, and is pretty wicked. So, of course, as I told you guys, I've got quite the mess here on my table. I will show you guys the naked Rage Blade another time. I've showed you guys before. Uh, oh, here it is. Baba Booey. Found it. So check this bad boy out. This has been out for a number of years. Came out at ICAST like 4 or 5 years ago. So you see that it's the same exact design where the lead is attached to the blade, but this is a clear plastic blade. And then take a look at the peculiar design of the Z-Man Stealth Blade jackhammer. And the way that it's reinforced, got that little piece of metal in there. Oh, wait a second. What is that? Looks like it was inspired by this bait right here. Naked Rage Blade came first. And somehow the Stealth Blade jackhammer came to win all these awards when it came out, right? Pretty wild. So Matt, that's a good question. A scrounger head is going to move because the bill itself is soft and pliable. That is not the same with a blade like this, whether it's plastic or metal. So this is going to um, go side to side more like a chatterbait would because of the freedom of movement that it has where it's attached. Okay. So without a trailer on there, or no matter the trailer that you have on it, this thing is going to go side to side. Um, the trailer that you have on a scrounger depend will affect the action of that bait more than it will on a traditional chatterbait or on the rage blade itself. So this thing will also fish just a little bit lower, um, and different than a scrounger head will. So a scrounger head needs to be kind of uh, fished more slowly than say a rage blade will, and is made for ledge fishing specifically, whereas the rage blade is more of a bladed jig slash chatterbait that can be fished on a straight retrieve with more of a medium wobble. It's more of a vibration than a wobble to it, right? The scrounger actually goes side to side, whereas the rage blade is like a chatterbait style bait. Yes, it does make noise, Matt. Okay. So, guys, I've been on here for an hour and 42 minutes. Great conversation tonight, but I do need to get out of here. It's almost 11:30 my time, and I am alone with my kids tomorrow. So I need to get a little bit of rest. Um, Surprisingly, my son has not been crying. We're trying to get him trained on uh, eating less at nighttime. You know, he just had his 9 month appointment yesterday, and pediatrician told us we should not be feeding him as frequently in the night as we have been. It's about time that he can start sleeping through the night on his own. Only issue with that is my wife starts to get mastitis, uh, which I know is none of you guys' business, but it is an issue with us. Um, and something that affects my personal life. So unfortunately, we're trying to ride that balance, trying to get him to sleep better through the night. And I'm glad he has not been freaking out just yet. So guys, thank you so much for hanging out tonight. It's been a blast. Couple new people in here contributing more than would be typical. So Megaforce, Bruce Nichols, um, Michael Romero, and Derek from Fishing for Bass. Guys, super appreciate you. And then, of course, Ray, Matt, Daniel, um, all you regulars in here too. Super fun. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, have those notifications turned on because I might just well be back on tomorrow night. So I don't have another package to open, but I'd be happy to talk about chatterbaits galore again, or anything else under the sun that you guys might want to talk about. So, have a great rest of your night. Enjoy your Friday tomorrow. I was going to say Saturday, but um, yeah, the week's flying by. Have a good one. See you soon, guys. Bye.